My name is Oliver Chinenye OPARA, but popularly called OC. I trained as a lawyer, practiced during the youth service, and thereafter I went into banking, where I spent 28 years actually. And during this period, I worked majorly in Lagos, in the South and in the Southeast, in various divisions of the three banks I worked in. I've had an interesting life, both starting from my early years. Went into the seminary to be a priest. Unfortunately, I found out that I wasn't called for that kind of life. So because throughout the years I was there, though I was a good student in terms of the academics, but the church and myself knew that we were not meant to be together. So after that, I left the seminary and went to do other things. But even though I didn't continue in the seminary, the training in the seminary had a major impact on my life. Like I said, even though I rebelled against that life, it's when you got a training as a young person, it continued to rule your life. My relationship with God, my relationship with people, and my general outlook towards life. I think I can base all of that at that early upbringing. So when I left the seminary, I went into the University of Calabar, and it was natural to go directly against what that early life was like. So I went to read law, which probably people will say is not one of the most disciplined profession in this world in terms of the whole lot of things that you do there. So I went to the University of Calabar, where I read law and came out in flying colors, and went to the law school in Lagos and passed out in flying colors as well. Thereafter, I did my youth service in Lagos also, in the chambers. Again, that bug that was always biting me came up again. But if you remember that period between 1992 rather, that was the period when all of the new generation banks were springing up, and that was like a strong pull for everybody. The chambers were not paying well, and the banking as it was then was very appealing to every young person that left the university. And again, so you thought there was money in banking. Went into the banking industry in search of money. We never found it. We're still looking for it till today. So I stayed in the industry. My plan was to do a few years and see what works. But I was lost in it for 28 years, working through Diamond Bank, now defunct, Broad Bank, now defunct, and then eventually ended up at FCMB, where I rose to be regional director in charge of Lagos, up to the point I retired in 2020. And that was during COVID, so I took a bit of time to rest and to look at what the future had for me, and went into consulting, almost like a natural call, and financial advisory services. I didn't want to work in a bank again, because if you had done something 20-something years, you probably wanted to see another aspect of it. So that's how I ended up here. But again, if you were setting up business at the point where COVID was ravaging, so you wouldn't expect things to become rosy immediately. But we thank God for that. It's not been as expected, but it's not been bad either. So I would say good. I have a family of married, with a family of 3, my 2 sons and a daughter. If I have to look at myself going back years, what was most upmost in my mind in the banking, which is probably why I have a connection with the trustees of True Riches. Beyond making money for the bank and making money for myself, I noticed while I was there were 2 things that I was doing well in the industry. One, I had an unusual interest in the youth, the younger officers that were working with me. I wasn't your typical leader who would just issue instructions. I would generally help them to achieve the goals I had set for them. I was in the faculty both in Diamond Bank, in Broadbank, and even in ACMB, where I was running a part of the training school and all of that, motivating the people, helping them to find better ways of doing whatever job was assigned to them. But most importantly, I had this knack to understand the people who were working with me, and which is why I just had my birthday a few days ago, and it was a bit sobering that most of the messages I received were people from way back when I started in Diamond Bank or to present times. And it's still very interesting today for me to see that most of them have risen. Some are EDs. In fact, actually one of the guys that worked with me is an MD of a bank. So you derive satisfaction seeing people who you knew when they started their early years have gone through the years to emerge as what they are today. And most importantly, again, despite the challenges in the country, there is still a future here. And we must let all our youth to bear that in mind. Every country goes through this period where you pass through a rough time, but this is our country. And even if anybody didn't see any need for this trustee of true riches, the last election made it very clear to us that even though it's one country, it can just unravel easily. So it requires people who are committed, who are willing to make that sacrifice to change both the citizens and the youth, which are the leaders of tomorrow. We already know how the adults are and what they will behave any day, but we cannot allow this unity that is creeping in to continue. We are one. Most of our friends are not people from our tribes or ethnic groups. So we must let the youth understand from early enough. But for that to be successful, we have to empower them, give them hope. Forget all of the challenges they are going through today. So that's what this whole thing is all about. Get them to understand there's a tomorrow, find them meaningful employment, equip them mentally, help them through mentoring and all of that to know that beyond the challenges of today, that there's a future tomorrow. And it's going to take a few dedicated and committed people who are willing to make that sacrifice. That's what this team is about. We've chosen. It's not going to be easy because we're all fully engaged in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's where the sacrifice is in. What part of us are we willing to give up to ensure that the people coming up tomorrow are going to be better? So my role in the trustee of true riches, I will work in the academy, I will help lecture, I will mentor. The area that I specialize in, apart from finance, will be in the leadership. As you can see, the problem of Nigeria today is essentially leadership. If we get it right there, then everything will be okay. To develop those leaders who look beyond today, look beyond their selfish and personal interests. And the only way to achieve that is to ground them in the teachings of the Bible, in faith. Because the only way you can subsume yourself and become selfless if you imbibe the teachings. And that is basically why I'm involved in this. So at the end of the day, at what point will I say we have achieved when I look back over the years when my white beards have grown bigger and probably wearing off it to be? For those people we have impacted their lives, to sit back and watch them doing what we are doing today, making their own sacrifices, being successful in life, meaning that whatever profession they engaged in, they would have excelled in it. You can't help unless you have capacity to impact on. And that capacity means you have to be able to take care of yourself. So you won't look at other people's stuff and things. Then you will be in a position to make that sacrifice. So for me, that's what this is all about. And if I have to appeal, we're never going to get everybody to buy into this. But we don't even need everybody. It's just those few dedicated, like the 12 disciples. That's all it took for the message of Christ to spread. That's what it is all about. So apart from being the academy, we know we need money to be able to achieve our goals. So I'll be playing a major role in terms of supporting financially, in also attracting funding and attracting people who have the capacity to invest in this project, both in terms of employment, in terms of providing investment opportunities, and helping also to mentor. That's why I'm involved in this. I'm looking forward to this journey. It's not going to be easy. Nothing worthwhile has ever been easy, and I'm in it for good.